Why knowing everything about money still leaves you broke. Verso final. In 2007, a hedge fund executive named Ted Sedes made the easiest $1 million of his life. On paper, Warren Buffett had issued a public challenge. He claimed that a plain index fund, the kind any teenager can buy with a phone, would beat the smartest money managers in the world over 10 years. Nobody on Wall Street took the bet. It felt beneath them. Sides finally did. He picked 5 portfolios run by professionals backed by more than 200 hedge funds. Advanced degrees, full-time research teams, every tool that money and intelligence can buy. Against all of that, Buffett put one fund. It held every big American company at once. It made no decisions. It required no knowledge at all. 10 years later, they opened the books. The professionals had returned about 2% a year. The fund that knew nothing returned about 7%. Not one of the 5 portfolios won. Not one even came close. Now here is the detail everyone misses. The professionals didn't lose despite all that knowledge. Hold that thought, because by the end of this video, you're going to see why the most financially educated people in the world got beaten by a fund with no brain, and why the exact same thing is happening quietly in your life. The story you tell yourself goes like this. I don't invest yet because I don't know enough yet. A few more videos, a little more research. Then I'll start. It sounds responsible. It's the most expensive lie you've ever told. In 2014, 3 researchers decided to test it. They collected 201 studies, every course, every seminar, every program that ever taught people about money, and then came back later to check. Did anything change? Out of every 1,000 differences in what people actually do with money, education explained one. 1 in 1,000, and even that faded. 20 months after the classes, people were back to doing exactly what they did before. They remembered the material, they passed the quizzes, their accounts looked identical. Learning about money and doing something with money turn out to be almost completely unrelated skills. And everything you're about to see comes down to that gap. 5 mechanisms that live inside it. They don't run on ignorance, they run on intelligence, which is why the more you know, the harder they hold. The first one is running right now while you watch this. It's called the Knowledge Sedative. Somewhere in the 90s, a neuroscientist named Wolfram Schultz was watching dopamine neurons fire, and he noticed they were firing at the wrong time. Not when the reward arrived. Before. At the moment the brain saw the reward coming, the anticipation was the hit. The actual reward, when it finally showed up, barely registered. Now put yourself in front of a finance video. A concept clicks. Compound interest, dollar cost averaging, whatever it is. And something in your chest goes, there it is. Progress. That feeling is real. It's dopamine. It is also the entire transaction because your brain just filed I understand investing in the same drawer as I invested. It can't tell those two apart. One of them moves money, the other one moves a feeling. And when the feeling has already been paid out, why would the money ever move? This is why the friend who's read the most about investing is so often the one who hasn't started. Look at him. Look at the browser history. He's not lazy. He's not confused. He's being paid every single night in a currency that feels exactly like progress and buys absolutely nothing. And it doesn't stop once you start. Morningstar compares what funds earn with what the people inside those funds earn every year. The people earn less, about a point a year, sometimes more, not because they picked bad funds. Because they moved. In after the good year, out after the bad one. People with accounts, with opinions, with knowledge, the knowledge sat there and watched them do it. So, 2 numbers. How many finance videos in the last 12 months? How many deposits? If one of those numbers is large and the other one is 0, you haven't been learning. You've been sedated. The second mechanism is called the complexity shield, and it's the one wearing the best disguise because it dresses up as diligence. In 2000, 2 psychologists set up a jam table in a grocery store. Some days 24 flavors, other days 6. The big table pulled the crowd. People loved standing in front of it. The small table sold the jam. 3% bought from 24 flavors. 30% bought from 6. 10 times more action from fewer options. Now look at investing. Thousands of funds, dozens of brokers. Roth, traditional, taxable, tax-advantaged, growth, value, domestic, international. It's a table with 10,000 jars. And a normal person looks at that and freezes. But you're not a normal person, right? You're smart. So your freeze puts on a costume. It becomes a project. A spreadsheet gets born. Tabs multiply, expense ratios get compared to the third decimal. There's a thread you've been meaning to finish, a comparison you've been meaning to run, a perfect entry point that's always almost here. Here's the thing nobody says out loud. The project has a job, and the job is not to find the answer. The job is to never arrive. Because while you're still researching, you can't be wrong yet. Choosing means being measurable. Studying is safe forever. Except the answer was never hiding. You watched it win the opening of this video. And it's not just one lucky bet. Over 20 years, 92% of professional fund managers lost to the plain index they were trying to beat. The people who research for a living, losing year after year to the thing that requires none. There is no version of this where your spreadsheet was the missing piece. The third mechanism you can't think your way out of. Nobody can. It's built into the hardware. It's called the future self-discount. A researcher named Hal Hirschfield put people in a brain scanner and asked them to think about themselves at 65. And their brains did something quietly horrifying. The regions that light up when you think about yourself stayed dark. The regions that lit up were the ones you use for strangers. Sit with that. When you picture old you, the person who retires, the person who's either fine or not fine, your brain is not picturing you. It's picturing some guy. Which means every retirement deposit is, as far as your brain is concerned, a gift to a stranger. You're taking money out of the hands of the one person you love most, present you, and wiring it to someone you've never met. Of course you don't do it. Of course the math doesn't help. The math was never the problem. You know the math. Here's the math anyway, one time, because the size of it matters. $200 a month at 7%, starting at 25. About $525,000 by 65. Starting at 35, $243,000. Starting at 45, $104,000. Look at the first gap. The 10 missing years contained only $24,000 of deposits. Skipping them erased $282,000 from the end. That's how compounding works. The curve is almost flat for years and then it isn't. And the explosive part only exists if the boring part happened. At 25, you said 30. At 30, you said 35. The stranger who pays for every one of those delays wasn't in the room. He never is. The fourth mechanism is the cruelest one, because it's made out of the math you just heard. It's called the comparison paralysis. You know what waiting costs now. You could calculate your own number to the dollar, the amount your delay has already burned. Maybe you just did, and that number was supposed to light a fire under you. Instead, it's sitting on your chest. Kahneman and Tversky proved something ugly about how we feel numbers. Losing hurts about twice as hard as winning feels good. So the 200,000 you already lost screams at twice the volume of anything you could still build. The math says start now. The feeling says the damage is done, so what's the point? And you do what everyone does with a feeling like that. You numb it. With another video, which shows you someone 24 years old with a portfolio, because that's who posts. Nobody posts the frozen decade. So you see the gap, feel the loss, numb it with content, and the content shows you a bigger gap. Around and around. But run the numbers on the person the paralysis says is finished. 45 years old, starting from zero, $1,000 a month at 7%. By 65, past $500,000. Is it what 25 would have built? No. Is it ruin? Not even close. The only scenario with nothing at the end is the one where the calculation keeps replacing the deposit. The damage is real. The damage is also not done. It's being done. Present tense. By the paralysis, not the past. The fifth mechanism is the one that's going to offend you. It should. It's the one you'd never admit to. It's called the Sophistication Contempt. There's a sentence living in the back of your head. You've never said it out loud because out loud it sounds ridiculous. It goes, $200 a month into an index fund is what beginners do. Someone who understands money the way I do should be doing something more. And so you do nothing. Read that again, because it's the whole trap in one line. The strategy that builds wealth feels beneath you. The strategy that feels worthy of you requires being a professional. And in the gap between those two, you've built a waiting room and moved in. Wall Street had the same reflex, by the way. Word for word. When John Bogle launched the first index fund for regular people in 1976, the industry named it Bogle's Folly. One poster called it un-American. Who would settle for average? 50 years later, settling for average has beaten almost everyone who laughed. You already know the numbers. They opened this video. And the folly asks for so little. $200 a month, 30 years, $243,000, and 70% of it is compounding working night shifts while you sleep. No picking, no timing, time and consistency. The two things your contempt keeps whispering are not enough. Meanwhile, about half of American households have nothing saved for retirement. Nothing. And the app is already on your phone. $10 minimum. The barrier was never money, and it was never complexity. The barrier is that the thing that works looks too simple to deserve you. Step back and look at all five. The knowledge sedative pays you for understanding so you never have to act. The complexity shield keeps you researching so you never have to choose. The future self discount makes the beneficiary a stranger so there's no one to act for. The comparison paralysis makes the past so loud you can't hear the future. The sophistication contempt makes the answer too simple to accept. 5 different mechanisms. 1 identical output. Nothing happens. And notice the entry requirement. Every single one needs you to be smart. They can't get a grip on someone who knows nothing about money. They need the knowledge because the knowledge is the raw material. It becomes the sedative, the shield, the calculator, the contempt. Which brings us back to a bet. Those 5 portfolios that lost to Buffett's brainless fund, run by the most financially educated humans alive. They didn't lose despite the knowledge. The knowledge was the weight. Every insight was a reason to trade. Every trade was a fee. Every fee compounded against them for 10 straight years. And the fund that beat them won precisely because there was nothing it could know, nothing it could fear, nothing it could be too sophisticated for. It just stayed. The bet was never professionals versus amateurs. It was knowledge that acts versus knowledge that hesitates and second guesses and optimizes itself to death. Same war that's happening inside you. Smaller stakes, same 2 sides. So, 2 versions of you close this tab. Version A agrees with every word, feels that sharp little sting of recognition, maybe twice. Then opens another tab, a broker comparison, a video about allocation. Just one more thing to check first. Version A feels closer to starting than ever. Version A is the 201 studies, happening again in real time. Version B does something small and slightly embarrassing. Opens the account before the video ends, puts in $50, buys the boring fund, no optimization, no perfect timing, nothing worthy of a person of your intelligence. And that tiny, unsophisticated deposit does what no amount of understanding ever did. It breaks all 5 mechanisms at once. It's the one move they can't survive, because it's the one move that isn't a thought. Remember the researchers with their 201 studies. People learned, felt smarter, changed nothing. Knowing felt like enough. That was the whole finding, and this video is now study number 202. You're the data point. You get to decide which kind. Tell me in the comments which of the 5 had you. Just the number. I read them. If this one cut close, subscribe. The next video is for version B. The first 30 days after the deposit, when the account is open, the balance is embarrassing, and the contempt comes back asking who you think you are. The question was never whether you understood. You understood everything. The question is whether the deposit comes before the next video or instead of it.